green color. And so the bottom line is this. We do have the potential for some flooding once again for today. Remember, yeah, not a whole lot of rain in comparison, but we've been dealing with so much rain. It's not going to take a lot for the flooding to occur. We are saturated for sure. We go ahead and put this into motion and we can see what happens as we go throughout the day. As we head towards about 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, yes, if you have plans at the theme park, yeah, Orlando, you are going to be wet. We can see some thunderstorms happening around that area, but there are some rides that are inside, so that's some good news there. But all in all, not the best day for sure. Look down off towards Fort Myers, still lingering with some shower activity and some thunderstorms as we head towards about 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock this evening. As we head towards your tomorrow on your Sunday in the morning, things are a little bit drier. We'll definitely take what we can get at this point. The bulk of the activity out into the Gulf, Apalachicola, though, you are going to be quite wet as we go into your Sunday, so maybe take that into consideration. But the peninsula, oh yeah, we're looking pretty good as we go in through the afternoon and definitely as we go towards the evening. So the rain still to come right through your tomorrow. We're looking up to about an inch of rain. Remember, we've been dealing with so much rain that could pose a problem as well. So we'll watch right through your tomorrow. Some flash flooding that is possible. So we're going to be looking at this along I-95, around 475. Again, the major interstates, those going to be problematic, I should say. So look at what's going on as we continue. Look at 95. Look at Miami. We will be dealing with some heavier rain coming in as we go throughout the day. As we head in through about lunchtime, some lighter rain coming in. Fort Lauderdale, you're going to be seeing this. West Palm looks like you'll still be on the drier side, but Miami, Homestead, Hialeah, you will all be in the thick of things at this point. And even as we go into the evening time frame, the best thing about this is at least we're not getting, again, the moderate to heavy rain coming in across the area. But still, we've already been dealing with a lot of that flooding, so we will have to watch what happens as we continue through the rest of today. So, Paul, I was there. I experienced the flooding going on. And for today, we do have the conditions. You're looking at me. Go ahead. No. Say what you got to say.
Well, you were there.
Yes.
And you had 1 to 2 feet of rain.
Yes.
We talked about, you were here last week. We talked about maybe 1 to 2 feet of rain.
Exactly.
Definitely maybe 1 foot of rain.
Exactly. But, well,
we overproduced.
Exactly.
We have something similar setting up. So, yeah, I'm going to be that, that guy.
75-mile-an-hour winds to 100-mile-an-hour winds. Yeah, that's hurricane force winds. So that is no joke at all. As we continue through the rest of today, look what's going on. So we have some areas dealing with some sunshine, Bismarck, around Rapid City, Denver, North Platte looking good. But yeah, look what's going on right here around Omaha, dealing with some thunderstorms. We have some lightning across this area. This is going to be the name of the game as we go through much of the day in these spots. 2 pockets, really. So we are looking at around Des Moines, Sioux City, Minneapolis, down off towards Kansas City. This is the area that we could see all modes of severe weather on the table for today. So we actually could see some isolated tornadoes coming in. And the hail threat really and the wind threat really back off towards Minot, Bismarck, around Rapid City. With that said, though, still can't rule out a chance for an isolated tornado. So let's talk about this first blob, right? This first batch, if you will, because we look around Omaha, around Lincoln. So Nebraska, you again talking about the potential for some tornadoes. On the Torcon scale, we're at a 3. Yes, it's on the lower side of things, but still not on the no side. So we do have that potential. And even where you're seeing the 2s, we could see some tornadoes too. But when you're talking about that Torcon of 3, isolated tornadoes are possible and tornado watches could be issued. So we do have conditions being on the favorable side if that does happen, that we could see those tornadoes out there. So tornado warnings, have a way, I should say, to get those tornado warnings before it's all said and done. So also, besides that, we can see those straight line winds, so the damaging wind threat will be out there. And then again, we do have that hail threat, and we can see right here in this hash markings here that we could see 2-inch hail or greater. So we're looking at hail that could be the size of a hen's egg. Larger than that, that's a possibility. Let's go ahead and time this out for you and also look at this yellow, the pinks there, because we do have plenty of energy in the atmosphere. So these ingredients are there for these thunderstorms to really turn feisty before it's all said and done. Look around Des Moines around 8 o'clock this evening. You can actually see that little white dot there. So that's some hail that we're going to be watching for as well. Minot, Bismarck, more of the same. As we go into Sunday, we could still see some thunderstorms happening across the area. Paul?
Yeah, it's been a
attacks are once again making headlines, but they're actually pretty rare. The University of Florida says there were 69 unprovoked bites worldwide last year.
Let's call them encounters, but still those attacks or encounters actually killed 10 people. Weather Channel meteorologist Mike Bettis explains the warm water connection and what you can do to reduce the odds of a shark bite. Just a couple things about that. One, yes, I mean, you were in the ocean. Two, more people die from lightning strikes than shark bites or encounters every year. So you got to have more caution and fear for lightning than sharks.
Right, and you are in their neighborhood.
In their home, that's right. In fact, the Miami Herald says bull sharks were likely responsible for those attacks there. They can grow to 11 feet, weigh 500 pounds, and are known for their tenacity.
All 3 victims were bitten while standing in shallow water, so the sharks may have been chasing bait fish drawn closer to shore and the warmer water and plankton.
All right, so that brings us to our social poll this.
Weather gives us all the feels, so now let's check in with our emotions and take a look at our 3-day feeling, the forecast, with Disney and Pixar's new movie, Inside Out 2. Clouds, I like those. You have the sinking air. That's how you get those pouches like that.
I like to say it.
Sometimes they say it wrong. It's mammatus, right?
It's mammatus,
yeah.
yeah.
Say that. Okay.
Hey, but it's Father's Day weekend.
Dad. That's the hour. Weekend recharge is rolling on. Meteorologist Paul Goodlow.
And I'm meteorologist Lynette Charles.
And I'm meteorologist Molly McCullum. It is Father's Day weekend, and for all of those dads that are out there trying to play golf, you're trying to figure out what time to make that tee time, because a lot of us are seeing the heat.
Get some headlamps and go at night. That could be the best place.
Hope you have a good shot so you're not looking for the ball.
They have glow-in-the-dark golf balls,
Oh, that's
too.
fun.
That is really
They're
cool.
not like high-performing, but they glow in the dark. But yeah, anyway, let's talk about, what...
That is that a lot of Florida where it flooded was in a drought. Southeast Texas is not.
Yeah, and I will say this too, the GFS, it actually kind of came to fruition.
It did.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see.
Right.
Let's focus now on severe weather, because yes, we still have severe weather, especially in parts of the northern plains.
Yeah, we're watching this right now around Omaha. We had some thunderstorms moving through the area. Now it looks like we lost the lightning, which is some good news. But with that said, we're going to continue to monitor 2 areas for today, really.
We will see a resurgence of activity, especially in those peak heating hours of the day, because we know we've got plenty of heat and instability that's going to, feed into our severe threat as we get into the afternoon. There is a tornado threat as well in both areas, a torcon of 3.
And we do have that. So we're watching the torcons of 3. You might look and be like, oh, it's on the low side. But still, we have that threat. If there's a number, there is a risk.
And more likely than not, more of us will see the hail and damaging wind threat, which is there too. We could see some extremely strong winds in excess of 70, maybe even 75 miles per hour.
Yes, we do have all those ingredients there. You're looking now, you can see plenty of those pinks. And yes, that cape of the energy is really going to get its act together as we move through the rest of today. So we definitely have to be aware. We'll be right back. We know it's so dangerous to leave kids or pets in a car during hot weather, and yet it still happens. Automakers are working on new detection technology after facing accusations that existing safety devices are not doing enough to prevent tragedy. CBS News national consumer correspondent Usher Qureshi spoke to one family who had lost a child to a hot car. In a statement, the National Highway Transportation Safety Administration told CBS News it acknowledges there may be safer options beyond the mandated minimum. It's now testing existing radar systems before issuing proposed rules this August.
Caught off guard because the rain came down so fast that by the time you had, in your mind to make a plan of, okay, where am I going to take my car? Where am I going to find dry ground? A lot of the roads around you were already flooded.
Yeah, and that's why we call it flash flooding, because it does happen in a flash.
Well, we have more rain in South Florida today. It's not as much as what we saw last week, but it's falling on already saturated ground.
Yeah, we can see down off towards the south already dealing with a flood watch. So that means that conditions are favorable for flooding. So we have to watch this around Fort Lauderdale, Miami, Homestead. That's going to be the scenario. Look over towards Everglades City. We're seeing a batch of some moderate to heavy rain trying to come in across the area.
Once again today, traveling on 75 or 95, it's just going to be a mess. It's one of those days that, you don't have consistent rain, but, you're driving, everything's fine. You start to see the cars in the distance. They're wet. Their windshield wipers are going, and all of a sudden, boom, you are in a downpour. They can be intense in Florida.
Oh, definitely. So just be aware of it. Luckily, people that live in Florida, they know this.
They do, yeah.
But if you're visiting, like maybe you're going to the theme parks, just know what you're in store for.
And by the time we get to Sunday, at least Sunday evening, we're looking a little bit drier. Meanwhile, we have an area to watch that has a pretty good chance of development, slow development, and even if it does not get a name, we are talking considerable moisture into parts of Texas.
Exactly. So look at this red coloring. We're looking at plenty of that moisture. Look where it's aimed. So Texas, we could see this in Louisiana as well, and even over towards Mississippi. So the Gulf Coast states definitely going to have to watch out. We're going to be dealing with some heavy rain. Those totals really going to be adding up.
And you can stay on track with this forecast. An eye on some tropical activity in the Gulf that could bring a lot of rain and flooding to already saturated parts of Louisiana and Texas.
And in blistering.
Swim in the pool.
That's a good tip, yeah.
I mean, it's their ocean, it's their home. I'm just saying.
Not a bad idea.
Hey, good Saturday morning. Welcome to Weekend Recharge. I'm Paul Goodlow.
I'm Lynette Charles.
And I'm Molly McCullum. America's weekend depends on the weather. I'm definitely a pool swimmer. I'm not a big ocean gal. I like looking at it.
Yeah, I like both of them, but you don't.
But really, the oceans are super, super safe. I mean,
yes.
You have a better chance.
You've swum with the sharks before, so.
Yeah, but it's still.
They're your friends. Hi, shark.
A little, respect. That's
There
all
you go.
Exactly. Anyway.
Let's take a look at our snapshot.
You can see the people out there. You can see the flooded roadways. Boy, did the tropical downpours really overachieve right in Florida. So since Monday morning, we can see, start you down off towards Fort Lauderdale, over a foot up to over 2 feet of rain. I mean, if we would have gotten 10 inches, maybe 8 inches. That's still a lot of rain, but no, over 2 feet. Look at this. Big Cypress Nature Reserve, 27.95. Woo, it's a lot of rain. So this is what we have down off towards the south as of now. Some shower activity happening. We do have some thunderstorms just to the south of Key West. The bottom line is this, is that we will have more rain trying to stream in as we go throughout the day. But we're also going to be dealing with some thunderstorms, but it's going to be lighter in action as we go throughout the day. So that's the silver lining, but I guess not the bright side is the fact that we still have rain, right? Because we've dealt with so much rain, even just a little amount of rain is going to pose a problem for us, and this is why we're going to be dealing with this flood watch. Again, conditions are favorable for flooding. We can see this around Fort Lauderdale, Miami, Homestead. That is going to be the scenario. Let's put this into motion for you, and we start to time this out. So you have big plans. Of course you do, right? It's Saturday, and we can see around 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock. Unfortunately, Orlando, yes, we could see some thunderstorms brewing in your neck of the woods at this point. But the good news is around Daytona, around Orlando, the thunderstorms happen and then they pass by. So you will have some dry time out there, but just know what you're getting involved in. Again, and most of us going to Orlando, I don't know if I should say most of us, but a lot of us, especially since it's this time of the year too, are visitors. So just know that you get those thunderstorms that are going to fire up and then they will be moving out. As we go into your Sunday, we will be seeing more of the same in terms of the thunderstorm activity around Apalachicola, but a lot of us staying more on the dry side around the peninsula. So we really will have more scattered, isolated showers and thunderstorms as we head into your Sunday. So that's some good news to see there. So we could see up to about an inch of rain still to come as we go right through your tomorrow. And because of this, again, remember, we're already saturated. It doesn't look like a lot of rain that's still coming, right? But again, we've seen so much that we have to watch out for that flash flooding right through your tomorrow. I-4, 75, 95, all those major arteries are going to be under it. Let's time this out a little bit further off towards the south here as we look around Pembroke Pines. We're looking around Hialeah as we head towards the afternoon. We'll see some light shower activity moving in. We get some dry time too around this part of the woods here, and we're going to see this around Miami. And then finally on your Sunday morning early, it looks like we're going to dry things out a little bit more. And Everglades around Islamorada, Key Largo, yes, we're going to be seeing again some activity happening. And look back off towards Key West. If you had some plans there, Paul, I guess I have to just cancel my plans.
Yeah, but this time last week we were talking about that was a possibility of having that flooding for much of this past week, and now this week we're kind of moving out of that.
And I know we talk about some people, oh, I don't like the rain, I don't want the rain, but to get a rainbow, you actually do need that rain. Let's talk about some moisture in terms of the water vapor, mid-upper levels of the atmosphere. Yes, we are seeing this so right around Omaha at this point, around the plains, across the upper Midwest. And this is where we're going to actually be dealing with the potential for some strong severe thunderstorms as we go throughout the day. Lightning we're seeing now around Kansas City, back off towards Omaha as well. And the reason being as well, we actually do have the potential for some strong to severe thunderstorms, unfortunately, around Sioux City, around Des Moines. But even further up towards Minneapolis, we could see this back down off towards Kansas City. And then we take a hop, skip, and jump back off towards the north and west. And we can see what's happening around the plains, the northern plains there, around Minot, Bismarck, both areas. All modes of severe weather on the table for today. So we're looking at threes around Omaha, Sioux City, around Mason City, and then look at that little batch there, Minot, around Bismarck. We could see that. So when we look at that 3 on a Torcon, it means that we are going to be watching for isolated tornadoes, and we also do have some tornado watches that could be issued. When we see those tornado watches, that means conditions are favorable for tornadoes. You need to have that plan, because if that warning comes out, then you definitely need to go to the lowest level of your home. Not only do we have tornadoes today, we do have the damaging straight line wind threat and also a hail threat out there as well. All the ingredients really there, as we do have plenty of energy in the atmosphere where you're looking, and you can see that energy really firing up around 8 o'clock around Sioux City. We're going to be watching this. Des Moines, we have this as well around, again, the areas where we're looking at that 3, Minot, around Bismarck. That is going to be the name of the game as we continue through the rest of today. But Paul, this is all going to start to move on off towards the east as well.
As we said,
NOAA's climate assessment for the month of May confirms it was a costly period. 4 more billion-dollar disasters have been added to this year's list. Weather Channel meteorologist Chris Bruin takes a look at the severe weather that caused the damage. So far in 2024, there has been more than $25 billion, that's with a B, dollars in storm damage. Paul?
Yeah, that's a lot of storms. We've had a very active spring.
Weather gives us all the feels, so now let's check in with our emotions and take a look at our 3-day Feeling the Forecast with Disney and Pixar's new movie, Inside Out 2.
Person thinking, they got a little sedan, and I mean, the water's coming up over the grill.
Even the big trucks, though, they get stuck as well, get swept away. So
I don't know. Water and internal combustion engines, water and vehicles don't go well.
No, but I think it's human nature for people to be like, well,
I think I can do it.
I can make it. Yeah. It's not going to happen to me.
They don't want the hassle.
I got places to go.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? You're not going anywhere.
And it's going to be a bigger hassle when your car stalls.
Right now, you're right here on Weekend Recharge. Thanks for staying with us and not driving through our channel here. I'm Paul Goodlow, along with Lynette Charles and Molly McCullum.
Hey, happy early Father's Day to you. Because I know you're not going to be here tomorrow.
You're not be here tomorrow, so we'll get it all out now. Do you have big plans?
Maybe some golf if I don't fall from heat stroke, but that's the plan.
That's all has to do with planning what time of day.
Yes.
Let's check in with southern Louisiana.
Rough. We're definitely going to keep our eye on that for sure. And you know what else we're keeping our eye on? The fact that we do have the potential for more severe thunderstorms today.
It's rough in Kansas City this morning, and we've got some feisty thunderstorms moving through right now, but that's not the only round of weather that we're expecting in severe storms for today.
Yes, and when we're talking about the severe thunderstorms, what do we have on the table, right? Well, we have all modes of severe weather. So we do have the potential for some tornadoes. We do have 2 pockets of that for today.
And so it's not just areas, and they say one's going to see damaging wind and one is going to see hail and one's going to see tornadoes. No, it's all hazards in both of these areas. And you might think, you look at the Torcon scale and you go, okay, it's just a 2, it's just a 3. We've seen some pretty intense damage on days that we only have a 2 to 3 on the Torcon scale. All it takes is one storm.
Exactly. And not only are we watching for the tornadic winds, but we also have the straight line wind threat for today as well, and we also do have the hail threat.
We know how large hail can get in parts of the northern plains and right off the high plains, so be aware of that. Make sure that you have anything that you have outside, take it inside, find a place to park your car if you don't have a garage.
Yes, we do have the ingredients of the atmosphere, plenty of energy really going to get its act together as we go through the rest of today, into the afternoon, into the evening, overnight, and this trend continues to shift on off towards the east.
And even by very early Sunday morning, we still have storms in Iowa over to the
buildings don't have air conditioning. The farther north and east you go, the fewer and far between the air conditioning compared to the south. I mean, we would not be in the south if there was no air conditioning.
Yeah, you got that right. All right, let's check out what's going to be happening as we go in through your tomorrow. We can see that area of high pressure down off towards the south there. And with that, we're going to continue to roast across the area. Look at the temperatures. So for your tomorrow, numbers in the 90s in most spots. Look at St. Louis, close to 100. And then we didn't even factor in the humidity yet.
I would like to say these are heat indices, but no, these are straight air temperatures. By the way, they take the temperatures in the shade, kind of like
Yes.
what Lynette throws at me, shade.
Well, that was shade when you just threw at me. There you go. Let's take a look at that heat risk for your tomorrow, because we can see some of the reds. That means that we're dealing with a major heat risk, but that next graphic is going to show you that we're in the extreme. So this is when you definitely need to take those breaks out there, stay in the shade, and also drink plenty of fluids as well.
Almost the entire state of Michigan, the lower Michigan, in that purple. That's extreme because of the heat, humidity. And also, this is really our first push of these really warm and hot and muggy temperatures here. So it could be dangerous if you're not used to it, if you're outside a whole lot.
Yeah, and that's on your Tuesday. So just to know that this is just going to keep going. Again, stay hydrated, stay in a cool place if you can. And as we go into late week, we start to see that area of high pressure slide on off towards the east, and voila.
We're going to share the 90s pushing into the Northeast, but also into New England, even parts of Maine. People go to Maine this time of the year to escape the heat, and I guess they brought the heat with them as we head deeper into this coming week.
Yeah, we're going to be dealing with record temperatures out there. We look at the forecast as we go in through Chicago, record 96, the forecast 97.
Molly?
Well, a trip to one of America's, it's not falling at the rate it was earlier this week, but falling over saturated ground. Tampa, we're dry right now. Naples, we're dry. Miami, cloudy, but we've got rain in the area. Now, once again, driving on 75, 95. Oh, it's going to be a mess again today.
It is, and we do have some flood watches out. Fort Lauderdale down towards Homestead. So conditions are favorable for some flooding going on. So just know that we're still dealing with some light rain coming in around Everglades City. And we continue to time this out for you. If you are traveling to the theme parks around Orlando, you do have some dry time, but we will have some thunderstorms that erupt as well.
You're going to be hustling to get to all those inside rides before the lines get too long. So go ahead and plan that out ahead of time. It'll save you a lot of stress. This is Sunday morning, so yes, we're a lot drier. It's a lot better vacation weather for people that are trying to desperately fit in one day outside. But meanwhile, now places that have been dry, like the Panhandle, now you're seeing storms.
Yeah, so we'll see that around Apalachicola. As we go into Sunday evening, starting to see that push towards Tampa. We can see some thunderstorms, some heavy rain coming back into that area.
Meanwhile, we go to the Gulf and we are watching yet another area. This one has a lot better chance of development. Right now, we're looking at 50% chance development as it slowly meanders to the north over the next 7 days. But what that means is, yes, we're watching this closely, but it does not matter if it gets a name or not. The impacts will be exactly the same, and that is heavy rain, tropical moisture getting streamed right into places like Texas and Louisiana.
Exactly. So just like what we just saw over Florida, this could be happening over Texas. We could see this Louisiana, possibly maybe even Mississippi as well. And these totals are really going to add up. We see some of the models. The Euro model, not as bullish as the GFS, but still, these numbers are still up there.
Now, let's look at the GFS, the American model. This is very similar to what we were seeing in Florida last week with the European model. Not so impressed. The American model was putting out big totals. So take that as you will in Texas and be prepared.
We're helping you stay in Big Papa. We got it. This hour of Weekend Recharge is wrapping up, but there's more ahead on the Weather Channel.
We're keeping an eye on some tropical...
Hey there, good Saturday morning and welcome into Weekend Recharge. I'm Paul Goodlow.
I'm Lynette Charles.
And I'm Molly McCullum. America's weekend depends on the weather, especially on this Father's Day Eve. Happy early Father's Day to you.
Excited?
I'm
Do you get
excited.
excited? You are good.
Yeah, but I mean, come on, it's not as big as Mother's Day, you know.
Well, I wasn't going to say it, but
I'm glad you're doing it.
So you mentioned all the names for dads earlier. What do your boys call you?
Dad.
Dad.
Or, I mean, it hasn't gone down to bruh yet.
I was going to say, one of them is he actually is taller than you, so he can probably...
Both are taller than me.
Which is a feat.
But I'm stronger.
You keep telling yourself that while we look at our Saturday snapshot.
Exactly.
If you stepped out the door already this...
In terms of those totals. So, you know, a foot of rain, right? We're not talking about snow. We're talking about rain and then 2 feet in some spots. That is a lot of rain in a period of time. So this is since Monday. We look at these totals in Fort Lauderdale, 13.69 inches. This goes on up towards Miami Shores, 21.66 and 27.95 in Big Cypress Nature Reserve. So yeah, you get the point. Boy, did we put down some moisture, plenty of it. But the good news is that it fell in places where we actually do need some of that rainfall. So this is the latest drought monitor. Now remember, it comes out on, the updated one will come out on your Thursday. So So we'll see how this really does. I'm actually excited to see that. But right now we are in that drought, but we did have plenty of rain coming through. So we'll see if that's kind of busted and got a little bit closer to getting rid of it. Let's talk about what's going on right now, because we're still dealing with some greens, but at least we're not dealing with those reds and those yellows, right? That's that heavy rain that was coming in, some thunderstorm activity. We'll see some thunderstorms firing as we go throughout the day, but right now we're just dealing with the light rain over Everglades City. We can see that just to the south of Naples right now. With this, we do have flood watches. We possibly could be dealing with some flash flooding as we go throughout the day. Reason being is because we have so much moisture already out there, so any more being put down, the ground saturated, yes, we could see some flooding. So just know that and take that into consideration. We put this into motion. We're looking over Tampa. We're seeing some heavier thunderstorms trying to work their way in. That'll be the scenario as we go in through this afternoon, evening time frame. Orlando, around 7 o'clock this evening, not looking too bad on the drier side, but we will start to see more thunderstorms firing up for you. But you will have a lot of dry time if you're visiting, and this is your time to get out and about. It looks pretty good, especially in the morning on your Sunday. The peninsula looks nice, but some areas now, like around the panhandle of Florida, Apalachicola, you're going to be in on the thick of things as we head in through your Sunday. This is what we had, that flash flooding right through your tomorrow again along 495, around 75 as well. And we look what goes on down off towards Homestead, Miami. You'll start to get in on a little bit of the action as well. If you're headed towards Key West, yeah, you're going to be dealing with plenty of moisture and heavy thunderstorms playing a big part in it as we go through time. And Paul, we've been talking about all this moisture for Florida, but we're watching something else that's going to be happening down off towards the Gulf of Mexico pretty soon.
Texas coast, Louisiana, and Mississippi, big concerns for more tropical moisture being moved on in. And yes,
we do have the potential for some thunderstorms, those storms getting a little bit on the frisky side, and all modes of severe weather will be on the table. I'll show you that in a matter of moments. But look what's going on when we look at the water vapor loop. So this is the moisture that we're going to be seeing in the mid to upper levels of the atmosphere, where you're seeing the greens. That's more of that moisture, and also the white. So this is where we begin, right? We've had some thunderstorms down off towards Kansas City at this point, been dealing with plenty of lightning across this area as well. So this is one area that we will see the potential for some thunderstorms to be severe. And then we have the other one as we head back off towards the northern plains there. And both of these have torcons of 3 on them. But even where you're looking at the 2s, we could be dealing with, again, some tornadic activity when we look at that torcon. The bottom line is, yes, it's on the lower scale, but if there's a number, there is a risk. So you do need to take precautions now. Know what you're going to do if you do get a tornado warning. That means it's imminent, it's occurring, and you should be in your shelter place. As we look for the 3, we can see that isolated tornadoes will be possible, and we could also see some watches out there. Watches, conditions are favorable for tornadoes, but you don't necessarily have to have that watch go up before a tornado warning comes in. So just know that. Don't be thinking like, oh, Lynette, I never got the tornado watch. You didn't have to. You got the tornado warning, and that's the one that's going to be devastating for you if you're not prepared. Not only are we watching the tornadic winds, but we're watching those straight line winds as well, and also some hail. And that hail is going to be on the large side of things as well. So if you do have that garage, if you do have that carport, put the car in there because it could cause some damage. Let's go ahead and time this out. We're looking at the future radar and also that potential available energy as well. And we can see some of the pink coloring there. Everything is going to start to tap into it. Starting to see a little bit of a bow there between Rapid City and Bismarck. Those are the damaging gusty winds that we'll see. And that is going to move over towards Minneapolis and also around Sioux City. Paul.
Yeah.
Starting this year, the Phoenix Fire Department will immerse heat stroke victims in ice while taking them to the hospital, hoping the technique saves lives.
Joining us right now to talk more about it, that is Captain Todd Keller with the Phoenix Fire Department. Captain, thank you so much for joining us this morning. We really appreciate it. So we're talking about this new tactic of immersing heat stroke victims in ice. How will this work, and how effective is it?
It's very effective. So
a person's body temperature, and are there any concerns that it would be too cold, maybe the person going into shock?
So that's a great question. No.
Use this technique so far this year for any heat stroke victims? I mean, the heat started early in your area.
We did. We actually have used it.
Other fire departments or hospitals are going to be using as well?
Yes, our outlining organization.
So people don't find themselves in this situation where they have to have this immersive ice tactic used. You know, what are some of these preventative techniques so that, you know, they don't have to call you?
So one thing we have in the Phoenix area in the valley.
Keller, thank you so much for your time this morning and for everything that you and your
Absolutely.
department does for the Phoenix metro area. We really appreciate it. You know, heat
Absolutely.
is the #1 weather-related killer. And in a place like Phoenix where it's hot all summer long, you're like, okay, well, we're used to it. It can be so sneaky.
It is. It can be really sneaky. And, you know, vice recharge.
It's heartbreaking to hear of any child being left in a hot car. You sound like my house now because my son is about 1 and it's constantly mama, dada, though he says mama more.
On that, 1/2 weekend recharges rolling on. I'm meteorologist
Father's
Paul
Day.
Goodline. It's Father's Day, so, you know.
And I'm meteorologist Lynette Charles.
And I'm meteorologist Molly McCullum. America's weekend depends on the weather, especially on this Father's Day weekend. Now, there's a lot of places that have seen a lot of rain as of late. Florida, of course, taking a lot of the headlines where a surge of
Dealing with the tropical conditions out there, but also some severe conditions as well. That's what we're going to be dealing with once again for today.
in many of the same areas
Yes.
over and over again. Now, Kansas City, we had some rough storms about an hour ago, but now we're starting to see some improvements. We will not see improvements as the day goes on because we're watching 2 separate areas, both under threats for severe weather and tornadoes.
Yeah, so we
have a
look.
chance today.
We do. So the Torcon comes in at 3 for the most part. We have 2s. Bottom line is that we have a number, so we do have a risk out there. So you definitely need to know if there's that tornado warning. You have to be able to get those alerts.
And it's not just tornadoes. I mean, this time of year, we start to see the wind and the hail reports really start to tick up in a big way. And we could see winds in excess of 75 miles per hour. That will cause some damage. And very large hail is classically in this zone off the high plains and the northern plains.
Yeah, all those ingredients really coming together. We also do have plenty of energy that we're going to be dealing with throughout the day as well. So rounds of thunderstorms will come in, and they are going to be on the frisky side coming in this afternoon. And this all shifts on off towards the east by tomorrow.
So tomorrow morning, you're waking up with rain in parts of the Great Lakes and parts of the upper Midwest. And we continue this theme right into the beginning of the week for many of the same areas. So I know we've seen a lot in Minnesota lately. We have multiple threats as well as down into the northern plains, across the Great Lakes. It just seems like it won't quit. It's the pattern that we're stuck in right now, and that's why many of us are stuck in the heat, too.
Exactly. So we do have that big ridge in place, and we can see those thunderstorms. We call them ridge riders, if you will. They go up and over the ridge, and we can see, again, plenty of rain coming in here as we go towards your Monday as well.
Now, things are going to add up as the week goes on. So in the upper Midwest, we could very well be dealing with a flooding threat as we see multiple rounds by midweek. Flash flooding is going to be top of mind.
Yeah, definitely. So take into consideration. We know it's so dangerous to leave kids or pets in a car during hot weather, and yet it still happens. Automakers are working on new detection technology after facing accusations that existing safety devices are not doing enough to prevent tragedy. CBS News national consumer correspondent Usher Qureshi spoke to one family who had lost a child to a hot car. In a statement, the National Highway Transportation Safety Administration told CBS News it acknowledges there may be safer options beyond the mandated minimum. It's now testing existing radar systems before issuing proposed rules this August.
It's definitely a concern through at least today. Tomorrow looks a lot drier, not for everybody, but in the places that are super saturated. So you see these pink colors, especially the light pink. That is where we got inundated with almost 18 to 20 inches of rain. And that happened in a matter of a couple of days.
Exactly. No, we never want to see this much rain, but we're also dealing with a drought across some of these areas as well.
I mean, we did need the rain. We didn't need that much, but we did need the rain. Now, we are seeing some thunderstorms today around the theme parks. You go up towards Daytona Beach, maybe a few thunderstorms. A lot of the focus of the more consistent rain is on southern portions of Florida. We're talking about the Alligator Alley area. It's going to be another nasty day to drive and travel, or 75.
Yeah, and watch what happens as we go into your Sunday. So some of the areas that didn't necessarily receive it, like the Panhandle, will start to focus in on that area. So some thunderstorms coming there.
And then Sunday evening, okay, fine, finally, most of us are dry. But that's the evening time. That's 11 o'clock. Now, we know how it goes in Florida, where we'll probably pick up with the activity once we get into the peak heating hours of Monday. This is the drought monitor. Now, we haven't received the most updated one that takes into account all of the rain that will happen on Thursday.
I can't wait to see that one.
It's going to be really interesting to see what happens with some of this severe drought, the orange colors.
Yeah, so I'm thinking it's going to knock it down a bit because, again, a lot of rain coming in across the area. Let's talk about this next thing that we're watching?
Okay, so we are in hurricane season now, and so this is an area that we're watching with 50% chance of development over the next 7 days. It's going to meander in the same area as it tries to get its act together, but we know how warm the water temperatures are, and we know that this is going to pull a lot of this tropical moisture around this developing low straight into places like Texas as well as Louisiana. And speaking of Texas, southeastern Texas, not in a drought like Florida was, even though this is a very similar setup. We're saturated already in Texas. So how much more rain can we take?
Exactly. And then a place like Houston, this floods very easily anyway, you know, on a good day. So we look at the Euro model. We can see some pockets of about 5 to 8 inches. That's a lot of rain in itself, but look at the GFS.
The American model. Ooh. This is exactly what was happening with Florida last weekend, where the American model was showing much more than the European model. And I will say the American model ended up being pretty right.
Yeah.
Well, you can stay on top of threats to your day in a language.
Hey there, good Saturday to you, and welcome to Weekend Recharge. I'm Paul Goodlow.
And I'm Lynette Charles.
And I'm Molly McCullum. America's weekend depends on the weather on this Father's Day weekend. Our resident father.
No. Big Papa.
I'm not calling him that. I refuse.
Or you can call me Daddy.
Not that either. And on that note, we're going to take you to our Saturday snapshot.
Because ridiculous, really. You know, if we got maybe 8 inches, 5 inches, still a lot of rain. But look at this. We're talking about over a foot of rain in Fort Lauderdale. And then the further up this list you go, we're up to over 2 feet of rain. We're not talking about snow. We're talking about rain coming in across Florida. So, yeah, we really overachieved across the area. But with that said, the areas that actually got all this rain actually need some of this rain. So that's the silver lining, if you will. So the new drought monitor comes out on Thursday. So I cannot wait to see whether we have some that we're basically out of the droughts and some improvements, if you will. So let's take a look at what's going on right now. And we're still watching for some thunderstorms, a few scattered spotty showers happening, but nothing like we saw over the past several days. And that is some wonderful news. But because we're so soggy and saturated, anything else that we get, we do have the potential for some flooding. So we do have a flood watch. So conditions favorable for flooding from Fort Lauderdale to Miami. We're going to see this around Homestead as well. We will get a lot of dry time in here as we go throughout the day. So if you are in Orlando, it's that time of the year where you're just visiting and you want to get to those theme parks, you will have some dry time. But also know that we will have those thunderstorms that fire up as we go into the afternoon as well. They'll be in, they'll be out, and you'll be able to have a good time. But you might want to plan around those thunderstorms as well. As we go into about 7 o'clock this evening, down off towards the south, still being on the active side. But look at this. On your Sunday morning, the peninsula looks nice and dry. We're already even seeing that around towards the panhandle as well. So out there walking the dog, finally don't have to wonder if we're going to see some thunderstorms across that time frame, because it looks like we'll be dry. But as we go into the afternoon, of course, you're getting that heating of the day as well. So we're going to pop up some of those thunderstorms back to the west of Daytona Beach. We're going to see this around Fort Myers as well, and Apalachicola. You'll start to get in on this, but it's more towards the evening time frame. Tampa starting to see a little activity around 11 o'clock. So in the evening, that is a possibility. You know, it also is possible as we head towards your tomorrow, some flash flooding, of course. I-40, 75, 95. So maybe it's time for you to go home. Just be aware of the flash flooding if that occurs as we head into your tomorrow. This is what it looks like down off towards Key Largo. If you're going to be headed towards the Keys, this is where that moisture is really setting in for your today. Key West, Big Pine Key, as we go towards the afternoon, evening time frame, this is where we'll see this. So, Paul, I look at this and, you know, we talk about all the moisture that we've been seeing. Now our eye goes over towards Texas because we could still see more moisture just like we saw in Florida.
Right, and our story, like it was last week, is all about impacts. The story this week about the impact.
Some rain, but I know you're like, oh, no, we don't need the thunderstorms. Well, you're right about that. That's for sure. All right, let's talk about some moisture because we're looking in the mid to upper levels of the atmosphere. We're looking at the green and the whites, and yes, that's that moisture coming in across the area. We're going to continue to have more moisture. Unfortunately, we will have the thunderstorms with this, and some of those thunderstorms are going to be on the feisty side. Still been dealing with this cluster right here just north of Kansas City, basically really all morning, and it has been producing that lightning. So for today, we have 2 areas that we could see some damaging gusty wind, some hail, and also some tornadoes. So let's talk about the tornado risk as we go through the rest of today. That Torcon, we have 3s on both of these, right? But we're also dealing with the 2. Bottom line is that we have a number on both of these. So if there is a number, there is a risk. So we do have to watch out for that. Isolated tornadoes are possible when we get that Torcon of 3. And also tornado watches could be issued, but don't hang your hat so much on a tornado watch being issued, because you can have tornado warnings without the actual tornado watch. So, and the tornado warning is way more important than the actual tornado watch. That means that for that tornado warning, it's imminent, it's happening, it's occurring right now. So besides the tornadoes that we could see today, we do have that damaging wind threat, and we also do have that hail threat. And the winds, yeah, we could see winds 75 miles an hour or greater, and we could see that hail 2 inches in diameter or greater as well. So it is going to be some big hail that's going to be falling from the sky. Those updrafts are going to be very high. Look at this. We do have pinks here. We see some of those yellows. Yes, this is where we're talking about plenty of energy to really add to these thunderstorms really firing and forming as we go throughout the day. Remember, I talked about the damaging gusty winds. Yeah, look at that bow there. It looks like so damaging gusty winds will happen. Remember, I talked about that hail. Look at that little white right there moving through Sioux City. So yeah, we do have the potential for that. And again, this will come through today, this afternoon, and then push on off towards tomorrow as well, Paul.
Yeah, but
starting this year, the Phoenix Fire Department will immerse heat stroke victims in ice while taking them to the hospital, hoping the technique saves lives.
Joining us right now to talk more about it, that is Captain Todd Keller with the Phoenix Fire Department. Captain, thank you so much for joining us this morning. We really appreciate it. So we're talking about this new tactic of immersing heat stroke victims in ice. How will this work, and how effective is it?
It's very effective. So,
for a person's body temperature, and are there any concerns that it would be too cold, maybe the person going into shock?
So that's a great question.
Have you used this technique so far this year for any heat stroke victims? I mean, the heat started early in your area.
We did. We actually have used it.
Other fire departments or hospitals are going to be using as well?
Yes, our outlining organization.
So people don't find themselves in this situation where they have to have this immersive ice tactic used. You know, what are some of these preventative techniques so that, you know, they don't have to call you?
So one thing we have in the Phoenix area, in the
ice technique is a new technique that you guys are using, but what did you actually use before this?
So what we use is
Todd Keller, thank you so much for your time this morning and for everything that you and your department does for the Phoenix metro area. We really appreciate it. You know, heat is the #1 weather-related killer. And in a place like Phoenix where it's hot all summer long, you're like, okay, well, we're used to it. It can be so sneaky.
It is. It can be really sneaky. And, you know, vice and recharge.
It's heartbreaking to hear of any child being left in a hot...
or whatever, the car behind the truck is probably going to be stuck.
Yeah, that was up to his lights.
Yeah, maybe it's like fishing in a barrel.
But the worst part about it is what I really despise about it is that it's one thing to put you in harm's way, but then to put the people that have to save you in harm's way, that's not great.
Yeah, and on top of that, it's floodwaters, and think about what goes under the street. Sewers, and by the way, the sewers come from your house. You flush certain things. I'm being real.
I know you are.
It's very real, and that's a big reason. Sometimes you see people swimming or playing in floodwaters just to, you know, to create that viral social media. It's not worth it, I promise you.
People on TV do that. None of us here do that. Certainly at the Weather Channel, you won't see, but you will see other networks do that, and I laugh and cringe when I see that.
Introduce yourself.
Oh, I'm Paul Goodlow, along with Molly McCullum and the bossy Lynette Charles.
He used to get off his soapbox for a minute.
Get off my lawn, kids. But I got something to talk about before you get off my lawn.
He's got a lot to talk about. But first, we're going to take you to South Louisiana. Potential too as we look towards the upper Midwest and the northern plains again. And the high plains too.
Exactly. We're already seeing some shower activity going on across the area. Been going on all morning long, still lingering through this afternoon. We'll have more rounds of showers and thunderstorms firing, and we were going to have all modes of severe weather on the table once again.
We have some Torcon values for you. Just because it's June doesn't mean that we don't see tornadoes anymore. In fact, this is prime tornado time for parts of the northern tier and the northern plains. A Torcon of 2 to 3. Yes, that's the lower end of the scale. All it takes is one storm that can change your life. So make sure you have the weather alerts ready to go today so that if you find yourself under a tornado warning, you can take really quick action. It's not just tornadoes.
It's not. We're going to be dealing with the damaging straight line winds, and we also do have some hail. And it's going to, the hail, we're talking 2 inches in diameter or greater. That is some big hail. So if you do have the carport, if you have the garage, definitely try to park your car there.
Now, we know there's plenty of heat to feed the instability. Sun angle in June. June. Of course, it's very intense, building the instability right into the afternoon. And even through the overnight hours, we're going to continue to see some of this activity sustained by those low-level winds coming in from the back of the storm.
Yeah, we'll continue to push on off towards the east. So tomorrow we're going to be working with this, but not only just for the weekend as we head towards your Monday and also your Tuesday.
For many of the same areas again and again. And so by the end of the week, could we see flash flooding? It's very possible.
We'll be back. We know it's so dangerous to leave kids or pets in a car during hot weather, and yet it still happens. Automakers are working on new detection technology after facing accusations that existing safety devices are not doing enough to prevent tragedy. CBS News national consumer correspondent Usher Qureshi spoke to one family who had lost a child to a hot car. In a statement, the National Highway Transportation Safety Administration told CBS News it acknowledges there may be safer options beyond the mandated minimum. It's now testing existing radar systems before issuing proposed rules this August.
Rain. Is it falling at the rainfall rates we saw earlier this week?
No.
No, but it doesn't need to because
Right.
this is the saturated soil that we're working with. Some of those pink colors, that's 18 plus inches of rain.
So much rain.
That is a lot of rain, even for Florida, which is used to seeing a lot of rain. Now, it's pretty steady light rain this morning. Some thunderstorms trying to work their way into the Tampa area and areas just north. But so far, fairly quiet.
Exactly, much different, but the potential for some flooding is there. So we do have some flood watches up. Fort Lauderdale down off towards Homestead. We're going to be watching that as we go through the rest of today. And speaking of going through the rest of the day, we stopped this at 1 o'clock. Tampa looks like you'll be on the wet side. We start to get more of the thunderstorms bubbling up around Orlando as well.
If you have plans for any of the theme parks, go ahead and pick what inside ride you want to go to because you're going to head right there when you start to see the dark clouds. You beat all the lines.
Yes, and so as we go through the rest of today into tomorrow, we're going to be watching for another batch to move in. But we will see a lot of dry time, though, along the peninsula. But, of course, as we go into the afternoon, those thunderstorms will begin to bubble.
By Sunday evening, once again, we're quiet, but we know what happens when we get into Monday, the heating, the daytime heating, classic Florida in the summertime. And also classic Gulf when we look at how warm the water temperatures are. Of course, we're having an area that we're monitoring very closely, a 50% chance of development over the next 7 days, slowly meandering to the north, and all the while pushing all of this tropical moisture to the north.
Yeah, so we're definitely going to see it before it's all said and done. Where are we looking? We're looking at the Gulf Coast states here, really Louisiana. We're looking at the Texas coast as well. That's going to be the thick of it. But how much rain are we talking, right? Well, we look at some of the models. Euro, as we look tomorrow through Thursday, pockets of about 5 to 8 inches. Now, wait for it.
I mean, 5 to 8 is more than enough.
Yeah,
with how
exactly.
saturated we've been in southeastern Texas. But the American model, but now, you know, just from a couple of hours ago when we were showing the American model, it was showing the bullseye more towards Houston, Lake Charles. Now it's shifting into areas Houston and maybe along the I-10 corridor. A lot of details still to work out. But I will say this. The American model was right about Florida last week.
It was. We'll have to watch that
Something
for sure.
to watch.
Yeah. So we're helping you